Hey there, Cowboys fan. I've got some big news to kick things off today. While the team's front office has stayed mostly quiet through this part of the offseason, that silence just got shattered. The Dallas Cowboys have officially signed 2 new players and released 3 others. And believe me, this is more than just a simple roster shuffle. There's a message behind these moves, and it says a lot about where this team is headed. Let's break it down. The Cowboys have signed linebacker Willie, Harvey Jr., and offensive lineman Brock Hoffman. On the surface, these might not seem like earth-shaking additions, but when you dig deeper into what they bring to the table and what their timing tells us, this feels like a direct signal from Brian Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys are laser-focused on one thing: toughness. Harvey Jr. has bounced around the league, sure, but the guy is relentless. He hits hard, plays with heart, and fits perfectly into what Schottenheimer wants too. Build on defense. High motor players who fly to the football. And Hoffman? He's a grinder in the trenches, something we desperately need with all the questions surrounding our offensive line depth heading into training camp. But wait, it gets more interesting. To make room for these guys, the Cowboys have released 3 players, all of whom were considered part of the roster picture just weeks ago. That's a big statement. It shows that Schottenheimer isn't interested in waiting around. If you're not up to standard, you're out. Simple as that. No more playing it safe with the bottom of the roster. Every spot has to count. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think these signings actually make a difference? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments. And if you've got thoughts on Harvey or Hoffman, let's talk about it below. All right, let's keep rolling, because this next part shows exactly how Schottenheimer is putting his stamp on this team. All right, fan, let's get into the real story here, because this isn't just about who got signed or who got cut. This is about who's in control. Brian Schottenheimer, the Cowboys' offensive coordinator, is making it crystal clear that he's not just a background figure. He's stepping into the spotlight. And with every move the front office makes, you can feel his fingerprints all over it. This offseason has been different. Quiet, calculated, but sharp. And from what we're seeing, it's Schottenheimer who's influencing this shift. Think about it. He's the one pushing for physical, no-nonsense players. Guys like Harvey Jr. and Hoffman don't get brought in for flashy headlines. They get brought in because they're dependable, physical, and coachable. That screams Schottenheimer. And here's the thing. This might be the first time in a long while that we're seeing a coordinator actually shape the identity of the Dallas Cowboys. Usually, it's Jerry Jones pulling strings or McCarthy managing egos. But now, Schottenheimer is clearly driving a culture shift. One that values grit, accountability, and execution over hype and headlines. He wants players who compete. Players who can do the little things right, especially in critical moments. And honestly, after years of inconsistent performances and playoff letdowns, that might be exactly what this team needs. Now, some fans are still asking, why does this matter if we didn't land any big names this offseason? But here's the truth. It's not about stars anymore. It's about building a system. That works. And if Schottenheimer is trusted to run the offense and shape part of this roster, that tells you the Cowboys might finally be willing to do something they haven't done in a long time. Commit to one clear vision. Let me ask you this. Do you think Brian Schottenheimer has earned that kind of power already? Or do you still need to see more before you trust him with this team's identity? Type your answer in the comments, and if you're backing Schottenheimer's style, let's hear why. If not, let me know what's holding you back, because up next, we're going to talk about the players who just got cut and what those decisions reveal about the real tone being set behind the scenes. Okay, now let's talk about something that speaks louder than any press conference: the cuts. The Cowboys didn't just trim the roster, they sent a message. Releasing guys like OL Brock Hoffman and WR Racey McMath may seem like typical off-season moves, but when you look a little deeper, you realize these weren't random choices. These moves reflect a new standard being enforced inside the building. Let's start with Hoffman. He was a depth guy, someone who could play center or guard and had some real toughness. But under Schottenheimer's system, that's not enough. They're looking for discipline, execution, and versatility that fits his scheme. So when Hoffman got waived, it wasn't just about talent, it was about fit. And McMath, that one's interesting too. He had size, speed, and special teams potential. But again, if you're not showing up every single day and locking into the details, you're not going to stick around. That's how Schottenheimer and this staff are approaching things now. No passengers. You're either driving this team forward or you're getting off the bus. It's a clear sign that the Cowboys are done waiting on potential. They want guys who are ready right now to bring value. The room for error? It's shrinking. And for a team that has underachieved in big moments, that kind of accountability is long overdue. But here's the real kicker. These early releases could be just the beginning. As the summer unfolds and camp battles heat up, don't be surprised if we see more established names shown the door. Why? Because the tone has changed. So here's what I want to ask you. Which move surprised you the most so far, Hoffman or McMath? And do you think these cuts are really about performance? Or is this about Schottenheimer trying to send a message through the locker room? Drop your take in the comments. And while you're there, let me know who you think is next on the chopping block. Because coming up, we're going to talk about the signings and why they might not just be replacements. They might be upgrades. So now that we've talked about the cuts, let's flip the script and look at the guys who just walked in the door. The Cowboys didn't waste any time filling those roster spots. But what's really interesting is how they filled them. This wasn't a panic move. These signings tell us something. They're not just bodies, they're chess pieces. Let's start with Myron Cunningham, the offensive tackle. He's not a name that's going to light up headlines, but he's got raw power and a long frame. More importantly, he's coachable. That matters in Schottenheimer's system. He's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He wants linemen who will execute the fundamentals and stick to their assignment. Cunningham gives them a project with upside, but one that fits the blueprint. Then you've got Tyler Coyle, the safety who's been around the league just enough to know how to survive. He's got experience, special teams value, and versatility. Exactly the kind of traits that keep a guy in the room come August. This isn't just about a backup safety. It's about depth with purpose. And finally, Tyrone Wheatley Jr., an intriguing name. He's big, he's physical, and he fits the mold of a lineman who can compete in the trenches. If you're seeing a pattern, you're not alone. These signings are all about physicality, accountability, and development. Not flashy, but effective. The front office clearly understands what Schottenheimer needs, and they're giving him the tools to build his kind of roster. These aren't random pickups, they're targeted moves. Each one of these guys has a clear role to fight for, and that's exactly the kind of internal competition that makes training camp matter. Now, let me throw this to you. Out of the players just signed, who do you think has the best chance to make the 53-man roster? Or are you still hoping the Cowboys bring in a veteran or a bigger name? Hit the comments, let your voice be heard, and don't hold back. Coming up next, we're diving into Schottenheimer's imprint on the team and how this version of the Cowboys might just look a lot tougher than what we're used to. All right, let's close this out by talking about the man quietly steering this transition, Brian Schottenheimer. At first glance, you might think he's just the offensive coordinator. But pay closer attention to how this offseason is unfolding, and it becomes pretty clear. Schottenheimer's influence is growing and fast. From the type of players being signed to the guys being released, there's a theme: toughness, discipline, and reliability. These aren't necessarily the most athletic guys or the flashiest names, but they're smart, physical, and team first. That screams Schottenheimer. Take the offensive additions. The linemen brought in recently, they're not finesse blockers, they're grinders. That's the kind of front you build when you want to run the ball with authority and protect your quarterback without trickery. And the backfield, the Cowboys are shifting toward a more downhill running game, which aligns directly with Schottenheimer's old-school, no-nonsense playbook. he's also shaping how this team approaches situational football. No more relying on perfect execution from high-risk plays. Schottenheimer wants this offense to win the ugly downs, 3rd and 3, red zone punches, time management. That's why you're seeing less patience for players who can't stay on script or avoid mistakes. But it doesn't stop at offense. This mindset is leaking into the entire culture. You can feel it in how the Cowboys are approaching camp battles and roster depth. They're valuing grit over glamour, guys who bring consistency, even if they're not highlights waiting to happen. And the biggest shift? Accountability. Schottenheimer isn't here to sugarcoat things. Players have talked about his direct communication, his attention to detail, and his demand for execution. There's a reason he's been involved in so many of the team's personnel conversations. He's not just coaching plays, he's shaping the identity of this football team. So, let's open it up. Do you like this shift toward a tougher, more grounded Cowboys team? Or do you miss the star power and high-risk, high-reward plays we've seen in years past? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you trust Schottenheimer to bring out the best in this roster? Or are there still question marks? And while you're at it, vote in the poll right now. Do you believe Brian Schottenheimer is the right man to help lead the Cowboys back to the NFC Championship? Yes, no, still on the fence. That's it for today's breakdown, but you know this story is just getting started, so make sure you're subscribed, turn on those notifications, and stay locked in right here on Cowboys News TV.